Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Bob Power, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our next live presentation from Terra Uranium. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Andrew Viger, Executive Chairman of Terra Uranium, which trades on the ASX under the symbol T92. Welcome, Andrew.
Good morning, everybody, and probably afternoon in North America. It's a great pleasure to introduce our company, Terra Uranium, to the market there. We're in discussions with the OTC. You won't see our code there yet, but we are in discussions and we hope to come on sometime early in the new year. I'll just start off with a little bit of a disclaimer. Right, here we go. This is the standard disclaimer. I'm pleased that everybody's read that, so we're now able to work on to our little introduction. A little bit of an overview of Terra and who we are. We've been formed out of a group of highly experienced uranium executives. Although our company is only new, we only listed on the ASX last year, and the company itself was formed a year before that. All the people involved in this company have each individually at least 10 to 15 years experience in the uranium space. We know the exploration business as well, and we're very, very good at what we do. We have, as with all our companies, very active and positive engagement with the First Nations people. We do that right from the start, from when the company was formed. We do understand that if we are operating on other people's lands, we do need to work with them closely, and we have engaged very positively and have full support from our First Nations people in Saskatchewan. We are located, our exploration projects are located in the Athabasca Basin, Saskatchewan, northern Canada. For those of you who don't know it, it's basically right in the middle of Canada. It's a great place to look for uranium. It has the richest and highest grade deposits in the world. It's also a very friendly environment for mining, both from the First Nations people and from the government of Saskatchewan. They have been rated now number 2 on the Fraser Index for global exploration of all sorts, and number 1 for uranium. So this is really a great place to look. And we also emphasize that there are 3 permitted and operational mills in that district, only 50 to 80 kilometres from us. So when we make a discovery, we are an exploration company. When we make a discovery, we have somewhere to treat that material in the short time frames that the ramp up in global uranium is going to take. We have terrific projects. We've advanced them from grassroots to drill-ready targets. We currently have 18 targets. Mike McClellan, the President of Canada, will go through that later in our presentation. We have drilled our first drill hole. That was really to confirm that the system we're looking at is fertile for uranium, and also just the logistics and handling of drilling 1,000-metre drill holes. It is not an easy undertaking, but we've successfully done that. And a little bit at the end about value creation. We are an exploration company, and people who are familiar with the Lassonde curve of value for investors, the 2 really big points, and the one that we're operating in is the discovery stage, where we move from a company that's looking for something into discovery, and we're right at that cusp. The management structure, very quickly. We have a very experienced board headed by myself, Doug Engdale, who's a biggest contractor in the Athabasca, long history, very well-known family of operators in the Athabasca Basin. Very delighted to have Doug on the board. Dr. Kylie Prendergast, who's a world-renowned explorationist and has had enormous success. And just joining us shortly, and hopefully it'll be happening today, Mr. Hayden Lynch, who's a corporate and commercial background in banking, has had extensive experience with RBC and Investec and in doing commercial arrangements for us. Our management team, Mike McClellan, who will be speaking a little bit later, ex-Cameco, ex-BHP, terrific bloke, really knows the industry, particularly Eastern Athabasca. Our commercial team, Hasaka Martin and Jules Grove, based in Sydney and Melbourne in Australia. And then Jennifer Burgess, Kyle Patterson and Dr. Tom Kurtzer, all also based in Canada. You'll probably realise from this that we really are a company that's managed out of Australia, but all our operations are based in Canada. A little bit on our capital structure. Very, very tight shareholding. We only have just under 65 million shares currently on issue. We're listed on the ASX. We have a number of options out there which are 30-cent convertible options. We're currently trading around the 15-cent mark. Market cap's around 10 million. We have cash in the bank, and our top shareholders control a majority of the company, so we're very, very tightly held. We've already mentioned dealing with the First Nations. We put this slide up front for a reason. Mike and his team actively engaged with the groups that who live in our area. We're very happy to work with them, and they're happy to work with us. And as we move forward, we expect to expand this relationship. It's one of the reasons we now have 3 years of permanent exploration in cooperation with the First Nations people. This is where we are. This just running through the uranium bull market. I know some of the previous speakers today will have gone into this in a little bit more detail, but as an investor, I expect you're on this call today because you do know uranium's in a bull. But us old hands in the industry know this is only just starting. I mean, what's come out of COP28 a couple of days ago with all the major uranium producers and power plants, countries with power plants committing to triple nuclear power by 2050, none of that's been taken into account. SMRs coming on stream, none of that's been taken into account. There is a huge global shortage coming in uranium, and we feel our company is very well positioned for that, particularly being, as we can see in that picture there, in the Eastern Athabasca, and it's an excellent place to be. I'll now handle over to Mike, who will go through the next lot of technical slides, and then we'll both come on at the end. If anybody would like to ask questions, please put them in the Q&A chat on the side of the screen. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Never been more optimistic where we are, where we're going with Terra Uranium. When we began assembling this company a short 2 years ago, we knew we had to be different. And how we distinguish ourselves from other explorers is that I would say the portfolio and the price. We're looking for billion-dollar deposits, and all of our exploration is gauged towards that sort of success matrix. But also our portfolio. When we began assembling the company, the boom had started in the Athabasca Basin, and when we went from conventional tens of dollars per hectare, it quickly elevated to the hundreds of dollars per hectare, and we knew that we had to become, I would say, very organic in the way that we approach this in order to get maximum value for our shareholders. So we went deeper into the Athabasca, and we created a very enviable land package that totaled upwards of 100,000 hectares and in the top 20 of land holdings of publicly traded companies in the Athabasca. So how do we go about our work? We needed a technical framework to understand our results, but also stage gating to understand where our risks were and should we proceed. A lot has changed as far as depth under cover in the last 20 years, and most of these areas have not been explored in the last 20 years by conventional exploration methods. So we started with ZTEM, which is a very deep-seeking EM airborne system, which we see basement conductors. We then went to structures, which we would see through more ground-based acquisitions. We used historical geophysics. We use ZTEM, which sees more into the upper sandstone. And we're right now we're dealing with sandstone cover that is upwards of 800 to 900 meters and drilling, as Andrew said, 1,000-meter holes. It's very challenging to see to that resolution, but also to execute drilling. Another novel technique that we brought from Australia was ANT, which is ambient noise tomography, very successful in the basin. Terra Uranium was the first to deploy this technology in North America, but also in the Athabasca Basin. And I'll talk more about the successes and what that lends to our exploration value proposition later on in the slides. As I said, ZTEM, it sees higher up in the sandstone where we're looking for alteration, signatures that fluids had moved up, and there's possibly emplacement, but also mineralized fluids are moving through the rocks and hopefully depositing uranium. We also know at these depths, because we are looking for the billion-dollar deposits, that deposits of that size do have geochemical signatures that come up through the halo, through the sandstone, and we have capitalized on that to do geochemical profiling by a couple different techniques, which further, I would say, hones in our targets, eliminates areas, but also increases probability that we are going to be successful in hitting mineralization. As I said, we have about 100,000 hectares that we staked pretty much 2 years ago. We just recently staked another property, which was called Rapid River, in the same corridor. We are still bullish in this area for multiple reasons. That it's been underexplored. There is a structural trend there, the Cable Bay Shear Zone, that is one of 4 majorly reactive structures within the basin. And we have 18 now drill-ready targets. This area has seen very little exploration in the last 20 years. And why we like this is because most of the areas that are further to the east of us have seen probably at least 3 different cycles, very heavily explored, and you're paying a premium for areas that have been very worked, I would say, with very limited runway left on them. We want a lot of runway, we want a lot of area, and a lot of opportunities for different styles of mineralization. When we look at this area, when we look at more of the eastern Athabasca, where these highlighted areas are, that's more of the Wollaston, the Majatic transition zone. These host the super deposits of the Athabasca so far, the MacArthurs, the Cigars. These are relatively shallow compared to we are in the 500 meter, 400 meter range. We are more into the 800, 900 meter range. But when we compare the prospectivity, and when I say prospectivity, is the drill holes that have actually encountered some sort of mineralization. In that highlighted zone, there's approximately 20,000 drill holes, which had approximately 2.5% success in hitting some sort of uranium. When we move out further to this area that we are in, there's been approximately 2,000 holes, and of those 2,000 holes, about 4.5% have hit some sort of uranium mineralization. I don't know if there is a real difference in the success factor, but certainly the amount of area that can be explored in looking for these super deposits that are parallel to the known deposits of the Athabasca, which are world-class. We never thought that we'd be this successful in finding this many targets, and that's why we're really pursuing joint venture partners. As a very small junior company in a deeper terrain, it's very capital intensive to start working in these areas and to drill. And we just need help as far as getting a partner so that we do not dilute our shareholders. So we have 4 active projects over 1,000 square kilometers. In order to do geochemical profiling and understand where we really wanted to focus our cash, we did RC drilling to highlight areas where there was uranium present on surface. There's no other better pathfinder to find uranium than uranium. We have completed one drill hole, which is a technical success at these depths, and at this logistically challenged area, we travel about 40 kilometers off the highway on trails and winter roads, and then travel up to another 40 kilometers on winter roads. You can see this picture to the right is across Passfield Lake, which is one of the larger lakes in Saskatchewan. It is actually a meteor impact which created this lake, and it's about 30 kilometers to go across it. It's not for the lighthearted to be exploring here, but super deposits are not found in grocery store parking lots. You just have to go farther and farther out. We've completed ANT surveys, ZTEM, VTEM, ground surveys, built a camp, 100 kilometers of winter trails, over 60 gigabytes of data collected, and this cost our shareholders approximately $7 million over the last year. We've executed very quickly, robustly, and our targets really talk to the success that we have had so far. And now that we've more or less done our base layer of data and infrastructure, the majority of our funds going forward will be on drilling. So where we're going to be working on our 4 projects. We're looking at 3 farm outs, 2 farm ins. And over the next 3 years, if we look at our results to date and what we think that we have to do, it'll be about $26 million worth of work that we would propose over the next 3 years on these 18 drill targets. We'll be doing an extensive amount more of ANT, more ground surveys, 24 drill holes, hopefully. And as well, we'll be, as Andrew suggested, listed on the OTC very soon. Passfield Lake. This is I would say, our anchor project at this point, mainly due to results. We have 7 targets identified so far through multiple stacks of data, which would be, as I said, ZTEM on the very basement structures, VTEM higher up, geochemistry, which we used RC drilling to understand, and also ANT and ground geophysics. It's not very often that you see this many geoscience techniques lining up over a target. And if it is, it's very uncommon. And also helium. We have helium that is hundreds of times over background, and helium is a pathfinder to uranium. Helium is only produced by the decay of uranium, and so another positive for this area. ANT, we brought this to the basin. It's ambient noise tomography. I would say, a pseudo-seismic. But if you can see in the top right slide, this blob that's in the basement, that's what we would think is a structure that would bring fluids up. And then higher up in the sandstone, hundreds of meters up into the sandstone, we have this alteration layer. So what we think, there's structures going up into the sandstone, a layer that has been heavily altered by fluids and hopefully deposited uranium at the unconformity between the basement and the sandstone. There has been news releases from IsoEnergy that has used the same technique over their Hurricane deposit. Hurricane is approximately 50 million pounds at 50%, very high grade, very large deposit. This target that you're looking at in the bottom right is the alteration in the sandstone, and it goes for about 6 kilometers. It's not a small system. The alteration above Hurricane went for approximately 1 kilometer. So we're dealing with magnitudes larger than Hurricane, and hopefully it will be a deposit that's enviable of the Eastern Athabasca deposits. A little bit to the south of Parker, or Passfield, is our Parker. We've also identified 7 targets there, using the same techniques of multiple stacking of data. There we have 7 targets, pretty much the same sort of signatures as in Passfield, multiple layers. But here, rather than smaller 6-kilometer strike lengths, here we have about 20 kilometers that's never been explored by conventional exploration nor drilling. We have completed 1 successful hole here, which gave us fertility in the basement and small amounts of uranium. And we're looking forward to getting much more holes into this and pursuing this trend is also with ANT to understand alteration rather than just conductivity in the basement. It really gives us a very good filter for where we want to put our money into the ground as far as drilling. Again, within the Cable Beer Shear Zone, one of 4 majorly reacted structural zones in the Athabasca. Hop rock, this is a little bit more logistically challenged. The First Nations would appreciate if we did not create roads into this area, so we've honored their requests. But what brought us to this area is a radiometric mineral dispersion train that is approximately 60 kilometers long and terminating on this project, which coincides with EM anomalies. We will be spending more money on this, but in the pace of results with our Passfield and Parker projects. That's a very high level of our projects. Andrew and I would be glad to answer any questions you have technically or about our company, and I will pass it back over to Andrew.
Thanks very much, Mike. And for that, I'll just give a quick little summary here. We do have some time left for questions, but I'll just hit all the key points that we've just raised. We have 18 drill-ready targets, which we are looking to explore over the next 2 or 3 years. We are certainly in advanced discussions with various partners to test these projects. It is expensive work, and it will take several years. Our projects are 100% owned. I think that, as Mike has mentioned, that is important because we don't have any royalties. We don't have any trailing arrangements with anyone. These are projects 100% owned by our company. We've brought in some ground baking techniques, in particular ANT, and we're looking to expand those. At this stage, we've only run the ANT process over Passfield and the core of Passfield. We will be, now that we've proven that it works, we will be expanding it to other areas. It's important to mention it's a technique that we know works in Australia. We brought it from here, working in very relatively loose sand basins in South Australia. We couldn't see why it wouldn't work under the more consolidated sands in the Athabasca, and it is. And we know that various other companies operating much larger than us have now picked this technique up, and they will be running with it. It could very much be a game changer looking under deep sand cover. We have a very strong board and operational people, and we also, most importantly, have very strong support from our key shareholders out of Australia. We will be evaluating these projects and growing the company very rapidly, and we do view ourselves as being right on that cusp of going from a discovery company to actually making a discovery. I've just kept a summary. Yeah, a little contact us. Alex Cowie out of Australia runs our PR systems for us. I do have a couple little slides at the end as well. If people would like to ask questions, I think they'll be included in the deck that'll be published. A bit on value waves and what's happening in the uranium market, and a little bit on what Denison are doing on solution mining. Because one of the questions we often get asked is how do you mine things at 800-900 meters depth? And the obvious answer to that is using solution mining, which is very much proven and is the main technique for shallow style deposits, such as the roll front style deposits, but is now moving into the deeper style deposits, and that will be how we will mine. We'll basically mine via a drill hole. And that's sort of leading in. I'm just keeping an eye on the questions here, and we do have a number of you coming in with questions. Thank you very much for that, and I'll work through those in detail. But I guess in an overview, as we've moved through this process of looking for these projects under a bit deeper cover, we've realised that there are a lot of analogies between what we're doing and the oil and gas industry. Not only are we an energy company, such as the oil companies are as well, but in fact the exploration approach right through to production approach is becoming more and more similar to that, where we do all the very good technical work, including geophysics, to target these areas. They are expensive to test, but then we mine them via drill holes. So this is not conventional, but you still need somewhere to send that concentrate, and we have those mills very close to us in the east. So the whole pathway right through to production is very clear. We've hit the 25-minute mark. Okay, I've got a number of questions here. I'll just run through them very quickly, and a couple of technical ones that we might ask Mike as well. Key milestones for 2024 was the top of my list here. We would very much like to be drilling our key projects this winter, which is not that far away. We do need to organise some partners to help us undertake that program. We've budgeted. We have a major exploration base at Passfield Lake, and the team ready to go. And we are in discussions with various groups to fund that exploration work. But we're also very active now that we're known, talking to other people. As Mike said, we have farm outs and farm ins. And the farm ins, we're looking at using our technology and our leading exploration team to test some other projects that some much larger companies than us have in the basin and would really like to access our expertise. So both those things are ongoing, and we'd very much expect that both of those will happen in 2024. I'd love to say we'd like to have a discovery. We definitely do, but that's you do all your hard work, and the harder you work and the better you do it, the luckier you get. So there's always a bit of luck involved, but we feel we're in the right place, and that would hopefully happen in 2024. I've got a number of questions coming in really about how we would operate in a joint partnership situation, and that's an interesting question. As we said, we have 100% ownership in our projects. We are looking to divest an interest in one of our 4 projects up front, and then we would operate that via a joint venture. So we would end up being joint owners of those projects and share in the success and the proceeds that might come out of it, very similar to a syndicate in the oil industry. And the operational side of it is then operated by a joint venture between the partners, and Terra Uranium would be the operator and undertake all the work involved in that. A couple of questions here as to when this will happen. We've been working very hard at it now for several months. You'll see we're strengthening our board now to bring in Hayden Lynch, who's an expert in this area. We would like to close those arrangements as soon as possible, and certainly would like to be drilling this winter. I've got a bit of a technical question here. Are all our projects in the Athabasca, and how do they fit in relation to other near-surface projects? So, Mike, do you want to just give a quick answer to that question?
Yes, we are, I would say, a boutique Athabasca company. All of our assets are in the Athabasca, and no, our strategy was never to go near surface. We will be looking at some shallower projects, but we feel that the real prize is going into the deeper domains where they haven't been explored by modern exploration techniques due to technologically available and cycles. So a lot of the airborne surveys have never been able to see to those depths, but also even just simply having drill rigs that are flyable that can reach to those depths. So over the last 20 years, there has been a great change, and we haven't been able to utilize any of those technologies up until, I would say, this bull cycle. So a little bit deeper, we are going to be looking at some shallower projects to farm into, but we feel that the real prize is in the deeper domain, as well as many of our peers.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mike. And I just quickly squeeze in one more question about the environment in Australia versus Canada, which is an interesting question, just popped up. We are able as an ASX listed company to access the Canadian flow-through system. We strongly recommend that everybody does that. It's a good way to put money into Canada for Canadian exploration projects. I'd just like to thank everybody for participating today. Thank you very much for your questions. And we look forward to engaging with you on the one-on-ones after this. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.